Okay, so here we go. Later today is the Black Stars and the boys from South Africa, Bafana. We'll see how it goes. I walked on the streets of Kokomlemle to seek the views of people. I'll let you know later. But you can also do your predictions on facebook.com/join news on TV. Right now, the really important discussion that we have to have. And I am really happy because of my special guest. He's really loaded. Let me introduce to you my guest for this morning to talk on electoral reforms is Dr. Kwesi Jonah. He's Senior Research Fellow with IDEC. So thank you very much for your time. Good morning.
Thank you too. What's your own prediction?
I don't know, like for my house or maybe 1-0.
I have only one prediction. If they lose this match, they stay in the Equatorial Guinea, they shouldn't come back.
Now, I'm sure all Ghanaians will support you. Yeah, but we do know that the first legal challenge to the validity of the election of a president under the Constitution of the Fourth Republic ended on the 29th of August 2013. But that's not where the end of the discussion went, because we've got a lot of things that we've all agreed and accepted. I think most importantly, the Electoral Commission that we have to work on. Based on that, they constituted a committee, and my guest representing IDEC is part of that committee. What exactly is your mandate?
Our mandate is very simple. Following the Supreme Court decision on the presidential election petition 2013, the Supreme Court itself made some recommendations that this is our verdict. But we also think that the Electoral Commission should take the responsibility to reform some aspects of its practices. And these are basically things that they noticed in the course of the hearing of the case. And so after the verdict, the Electoral Commission appealed to civil society organizations, political parties, individual and prominent Ghanaian citizens that, yes, the Supreme Court says we should do reforms. So we want every organization, party, or individual who has suggestions on reforms to bring them to the EC. So the EC has received a pile of proposals for reforms. It is these reforms that this committee is going to look at, these proposals. We will look at the proposals, then we will divide them into two. Those that are purely administrative and those that are legal and constitutional. Second, which ones can be implemented within the existing electoral laws of the country and which ones cannot be implemented within the existing laws, and then make our recommendations to the EC. But it is important for everybody to understand that this is a committee of the EC. It is the EC itself that has set up a committee. Therefore, whatever report we prepare will be a property of the EC.
Okay.
It's the EC that is going to take the final decisions.
So let's talk about the constitution of the committee, because we know that some people are making the argument that they are not represented on that committee. So who and who is? I know that you're from civil society.
Yes, I know that basically the EC constituted a committee in such a way that political parties and civil society organizations will be represented.
Okay. And
so it's a 10-member committee, which is not a very good idea. Every committee should be an odd number, so that in case they vote.
Because if you have 5-5, then what happens?
It's a stalemate. It's a stalemate. So every committee should have an odd number, and I believe very strongly that the EC originally wanted an odd number, but due to some circumstances, they got an even number. But civil society has 3 representatives. Myself representing IDEC. There's a representative, Dr. Ransford Jampo from IEA, and Dr. Franklin Odro from CDD. Okay, so we have 3. Then the political parties. NPP is represented, NDC is represented by its General Secretary, NPP by Mr. Peter McMahon, former chairman of the party. The CPP is represented by Kobna Bonfe, popularly known as Kabila.
Yeah.
The EC itself has 2 representatives. The chairperson, Mrs. Georgina Abankwa.
Okay.
And then Mr. Usu Pari, who is the General Secretary. Together about 10 people on the committee. But I have heard my friend Brad Mona, General Secretary, PNC, complaining that the PNC should have definitely been represented. On the
They're
committee.
like a strong party in Ghana.
They are a strong party. They are a parliamentary party. I would say that for now, the CPP, the PNC, and the two big parties are the ones represented in Parliament. I mean, I think it would have been a good idea to have him, his party represented on the committee too.
But do you have proposals from the political parties that you're going to be considering?
Yes.
Or these are...
Yes.
Okay.
Everything that we are going to look at, the proposals for reforms have come from three main sources: from all the political parties, from civil society organizations, and from some individual citizens who were very concerned and therefore submitted proposals.
Well, are you considering that the suggestions from the Supreme Court as well?
It is part of that document is also there.
So how long are you going to be doing your work for?
We have been given a 3-month period to accomplish.
That's not enough, is it?
No, I think it is enough.
Okay.
It is enough, given that they are preparing for 2016 elections. They must do the reforms, do other things before the elections. I think it is enough.
Are we going to be implementing the final reforms that you come out with?
Okay.
Before
it is the EC that will take the decision, but I cannot imagine the EC getting these proposals for reform and not implementing them before 2016. That is precisely what the Supreme Court wants. To avoid any more trouble, we want you to undertake reform. So these reforms will be implemented definitely before the 2016 election. You know,
the fear of a lot of people, we don't want something that, a final recommendation that will be because the two major political parties have said this or that or have disagreed, and that's why, we decided to accommodate them, sort of.
No.
So we're sure that, your work will strictly be professional, what will be in the good interest of Ghana?
Yes. No, if you look at the composition, civil society is represented, the EC itself is represented, the political parties have how many? NPP, NDC, CPP, and I think one other small party, 4 out of 10. We are not going to sing to the tune of any particular interest. We are going to work in the interest of the entire nation to safeguard the integrity of the electoral process and to make sure that our country continues to hold peaceful elections that will hold the entire nation together. We're not going to sing to the tune of any...
So what happens to those recommendations that are legal or that are legally related?
No. You normally get 2 broad categories of recommendations. Those that are administrative reforms. What are administrative reforms? Administrative reforms are changes to electoral procedures and practices that can be accommodated within the framework of the already existing constitutional and legal provisions. So you don't have to do a new law. You don't have to amend a new law to effect those ones. And there are others that will probably require either amending an existing law or even passing an existing law. Okay, now the EC will look at both. Basic question, which ones are doable?
Okay.
Which ones can we...
But who determines what is doable or not?
I'll tell you who determines. This is a committee of the EC. The EC will look at it and put it before a small committee called the Inter-Party Advisory Committee, which is made up of all the parties. The EC will tell them, we have received recommendations from the committee that I set up, and these are the recommendations. Now, let us discuss them. And then the IPAC together. It's unfortunate that IPAC has become a two-way affair between the political parties and the EC. The EC. And in fact, the IPAC itself is considered a committee of the EC.
Oh.
Yeah. So together they will discuss and decide which ones. There may be controversy over a few issues, but this is the body that is finally going to take the decision.
Is that the only way that we can go? Because, sometimes I have a feeling we'll get to a point where one party will decide to boycott and, come public and say we don't agree with the EC. That won't be the first time.
No, it wouldn't be the first time, and it will also be the last time. IPAC is made up of the EC itself, plus all the political parties that are registered with the EC. Now, if you go there, take a decision, one party disagreeing does not invalidate the decision that the majority of the parties in there have agreed upon. It doesn't matter how big the party.
You are now doing work, so you're with the EC, so you're close to them. Do you have the sense that they see that they have to correct some of their own administrative procedures? Do they accept now?
The EC is very open to reform. And in fact, with or without the Supreme Court decision, the EC would have gone ahead to do reforms anyway. If you have followed the country's electoral history since 1992, when we voted for the first time under the Fourth Republic, the EC has every election conducted electoral reforms. Don't forget that these are not reforms that the EC itself gets up to implement. They are proposals coming from various stakeholders, political parties, politicians, election candidates, civil society organizations, and so we have improved our electoral system considerably. If you knew the situation in 1992, December 7th, 1992, when we went for elections, things have changed. Things have changed. When we went for elections in 1992, we had a voter's ID which did not bear the picture. It was not photo ID, just your name. And anybody at all could take anybody's card. Now we have a photo ID. When we went to vote in 1992, we had opaque ballot boxes. You couldn't see through whatever somebody has stuffed. Now we have transparent ballot boxes. Now even the voters register itself has a photo. So we have in fact reformed the system so much. Now we are doing biometric registration. So reform is a continuous process. Even what we are going to do now, if after voting in 2016, we discover that there are some things that need correction, we will still go ahead and do reforms. So it is a continuous process. It is not like malaria tablets, you swallow, finish, malaria is gone.
Okay. So I was told that the pink sheets had changed, the famous pink sheets. Was that, like your first work?
No, we haven't done any work. We haven't done any work. The simplification of the pink sheet is a major recommendation by the Supreme Court. It's one of those recommendations that the Supreme Court made. And so all that the Supreme Court said, the present pink sheet or the resource declaration form, which is the technical name for it, is too elaborate. Simplify it.
So why didn't they add that to your work as a committee?
Why would they? It is so simple. The Supreme Court says it is too elaborate, just simplify it. They have simplified it.
Again, my fear is the objection from different political parties.
Why would any political party object to the EC implementing a recommendation from the Supreme Court? This one is so simple.
How does it work? The EC is supposed to be on its own.
This one simplified the pink sheet. It doesn't. So what they have done now, the simplification they have done now, may not even be the final.
Okay, so that didn't need any consultation.
No, it didn't. Just simplify it.
Okay.
The information on it. Provide the basic information that is needed.
So let's talk about, because you're sitting once a week, am I correct?
That is very true.
Okay, for the next 3 months.
We will sit every Wednesday from morning till evening.
Have you started sitting?
Tomorrow will be the first Wednesday, so we haven't started.
But what are your own expectations, really?
My own expectations are that, one, even though we have received a huge volume of proposals, when you sit down to do the analysis, you will see that the proposals are similar.
Oh.
You can get Party A, Party B, Party C, and civil society X, Y, Z, all making the same recommendation. So the first thing I think the committee should do will be to look at repetitions. How many of the proposals have been repeated by almost everybody who did submit a proposal?
Okay.
When you have done that, you see that the number of proposals you are dealing with is very, very small. That's the first step. Then the second step is you group them into administrative and legal reforms. Who are those? What are those proposals that will fall under the category of legal, and which ones will fall under the category of administrative? And then third, which ones are doable within the short period that we have before 2016 elections?
So does it mean that you would leave some of the long-term, the suggestions that would need a lot more time to come back to it, or you will pass it, but it may not be implemented immediately?
This committee has been appointed to do work for 3 months. At the end of 3 months, the committee doesn't exist again. Okay, it is not a permanent committee that will be sitting there constantly to look at proposal for reforms. We will just make recommendations to the EC, and EC will discuss it with IPAC. If they can, it is define that every single recommendation that we have made is implementable before 2016 elections, well and good. If they find, if not, you leave those ones for future consideration.
Is the EC obliged to take your recommendations?
No, it is a committee of the EC. It's the EC that takes the final decisions.
Would you be surprised at the end of your work that what you've recommended has not been taken at all?
I would be very surprised. This is a EC that is quite open. This is one of the most transparent ECs you can get on the African continent. They discuss, every recommendation will be discussed with the parties. Don't forget, the parties are representatives, 4 representatives on the committee. So there's absolutely no way the EC will meet the parties, show them what you have recommended, and then decide that even though they have made all these recommendations, I won't listen to anybody. It's not possible. It's not possible. And the EC is very, very concerned because the Supreme Court has specifically asked them to do some changes.
From what you said, do you think that we still have people trust the EC? Because some people are worried that because of what happened, during the Supreme Court case, that people don't really trust them anymore.
Okay, let's look at the facts on the ground. And because I'm an academic, I always go by research findings. Before the Supreme Court decision, the EC's popularity among Ghanaians was around 78%. About 78% of the people said they had confidence in the EC. I would be very, very surprised if, as a result of the Supreme Court or the presidential election between that one before the Supreme Court and the subsequent verdict that was given, there will be a sharp drop.
Okay.
Some people's confidence might have been shaken in the EC, but I think this will be a very small percentage. I tell you, if anybody were to conduct any empirical research today, they will find that in spite of whatever the dispute about presidential election results and so on and so forth, the EC still enjoys a very high popularity among the people of Ghana.
Some people say that they shouldn't have waited for other people to make some of the recommendations were so basic things that they should have known.
No. This is wrong. This is wrong. The EC does not have all the wisdom. And in any case, it is important for the EC to be seen to be encouraging the participation of the people. Assuming the EC, King Solomon, they had all the wisdom in the world and they could do all the reforms. For the sake of democracy, it is important to listen to the people, ask the people, what is it that you want us to do? I cannot imagine any other alternative.
So we see that, I guess, the other blunt question will be, do Ghanaians trust Dr. Kwadwo Afari-Gyan? Because, he was the man representing the EC that a lot of people knew. Do you know, because he is also in the helm of affairs now, would he be there in 2016?
No. For your information, Dr. Kwadwo Afari-Gyan is leaving June this year.
Okay.
He's retiring. He'll be 70 years and he will
But he's supervising what is happening now.
What is happening now is just a district level election coming up, and a district election in this country is not a very popular election. Only 33% of the people who registered to vote turn up to vote. But for your information, he is leaving in June. Now, the other point that I want to make is that I find it totally disgusting that people should personalize election issues in this country. Dr. Kwadwo Afari-Gyan is the chairman of a 7-member electoral commission. It's a 7-member commission. Apart from him, there are 2 deputies and 4 other members, each member representing, responsible for a number of regions, 1 or 2 regions, maybe Bonga, Hafua, and Western region, and so on and so forth. It is a commission that has been taking collective decisions. Now, people personalize, Kwadwo Afari-Gyan has done this, Kwadwo Afari-Gyan has not done that, and so on and so. It is not good to personalize such an important matter as election in this country. So, believe me or not, when Dr. Kwadwo Afari-Gyan finally leaves in June, I'm sure a lot of Ghanaians are going to miss him.
Usually that's what happens to us.
Yes,
we want you to go and then we miss you when you're gone.
He has maintained the EC, the Ghana EC has a very good reputation on the African continent and in fact throughout the whole world for so many years. The tendency, this politicization is only applicable to the EC. In Ghanaian politics in general, people tend to personalize. President Dramani Mahama has done this. People tend to personalize issues when, in fact, the issues you are talking about are policy issues. I find it disgusting.
Who supervises those policies?
Yeah.
I mean,
so, well, Kojo Afro-Ejjan will leave in June.
And who comes?
No one knows. Only God knows.
Only
President
you have had something.
Only President Mahama.
I may be wrong, but you've probably been consulted
no,
on something.
No, I have not been consulted.
Is it strange that by now we don't know who takes over?
It is not strange. The government is not bound to announce the successor to Dr. Afro-Ejjan, within any time frame. The Constitution does not say that you should name his successor, the next chairman of the EC, 1 year, 2 years in advance, and so on and so on. But I think
for purposes of transparency?
For purpose of transparency, everybody that needs to be consulted must be consulted. In fact, it's not just the constitutionally mandated bodies like the Council of State and so on and so forth. I think, and if I was President Mahama, this is what I would do. I would talk to all the political parties. I would talk to civil society organizations. Who, in this situation, you think would be a very good chairman of the... You get a number of names.
Okay.
Even for your own party, you get some names also. And then you sit down, scrutinize, shortlist, scrutinize the background. And so. I mean, if I was in his position, this is what I would do. But he's not bound by the Constitution to do that.
I was going to ask, where do we get them from? But then again, this is the only one we've had.
But don't forget that he is not the first chairman of the EC. Oh, he's the first chairman of the...
He's the only one that I've known.
He's the first chairman of the Electoral Commission, but we used to have a body called the Interim Electoral Commission. And it was, Kojo Afro-Ejjan was only a deputy in charge of operations at that time. But unfortunately, after the 1992 elections, the chairman of the Justice Josiah Boating, I don't remember the name exactly, immediately resigned when there was a controversy over the 1992 elections. And then Dr. Kojo Afro-Ejjan, who was a deputy in charge of operations, then moved up.
Over. Okay. Just the final one on this. March 3, we're voting. That's the district assembly elections, which everybody, and indeed you have also said that usually records very low turnout. Some people are calling for the day to be declared as a holiday. But I thought I got a smart idea yesterday.
Good.
Set March is also a holiday. So why don't we rather vote on Set March?
One.
But what's your take? Should March 3 be a holiday?
No, because we know the reasons why people don't vote. And they have absolutely nothing to do with the fact that the day is not a holiday. So you can declare 3rd March a holiday and you get the lowest, you could end up getting the lowest turnout in the electoral history of this country. The reasons why we record low turnouts, very well known to political scientists. One, the assemblies that we created have demonstrated very limited capacity to deliver services to people. Why would I waste my time going to vote for assembly members and so on and so forth, when indeed I am not getting good services from these assemblies? I don't care whether I vote or I do not vote, I will not get my good services. The second reason has to do with, of course, the highest political officer there, the district chief executive. It's not elected. You go and elect the assembly members, but you don't elect the district chief executive. That's the most significant. That is the most significant position there. I go and elect unit committee members and so on and so forth. When the highest person who is taking vital decision himself will be appointed by someone else.
I guess you're also of the view that that position should be an elected position.
I am of the view that not only should he be elected, but political parties should be allowed to fully contest.
Oh, so why don't we add it to the general elections then?
If you add it, it will be fine with me. It will be very, very good.
I want another one-on-one with you, really. But that will be in your office, in your home, wherever. I will come. Okay. Because I would like to talk more on some of these issues with you. but I'm really grateful,
Thank
really
you.
honored
Thank
for this. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Dr. Kwesi Jonah, my special guest this morning, really, a senior research fellow at IDEC. Really, really grateful. But we've got a game today, and I stepped out, wanted to know, what do people honestly think? Yeah, he has given us stuff. If the Black Stars lose, they should stay in Equatorial Guinea, please. Don't come back. But here's what people had to say.